2, 1, and we're live. You're tuning to Cosmic Children. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have a very interesting individual in the studio with me. So, I have been asked by 3 separate individuals who shall not be named, but they know who they are, to get this fine gentleman onto the podcast. Keola, welcome to the podcast. Could you introduce yourself and tell the listeners who might not know who you are, what you do?
Hello, thank you for having me on the podcast. My name is Keola. I'm the founder of BUNKERBUNKER. We are pseudo FMB. Okay. We are FMB lah, right? But I will introduce myself as a designer, and I run Bunker, and we do a lot of collaborations, pushing local subculture, and we use the FMB aspect as a tool to bring people together. Yeah.
Could you please expound on that last sentence that you said, using FMB to explore local subculture and to bring local subculture together? Could you just explain why is that important to you?
Okay. So I used to work for a local non-profit design organization called Participate in Design. And we do a lot of community engagement on the ground, talking to the men on the street, workshops for the community, whether it's private or public, right? Like government projects or not. But one thing we always know to do is to use food and drinks to draw the crowd. And people, whether it's the initial part where, there's food and drinks, let me go and get some, or like when they sit down and the food and drinks appear, and then they're there for much longer period, which allows you to facilitate for more immense engagement. Yeah, and beautiful things happen when you can sit people down, even strangers, right? Yeah, and then something will come out of it through the proper facilitation.
Yep.
Yeah, so food and drinks I think really that is the special tool.
Yep.
Right, and it's every single culture will have their own way of sitting down over a meal or a drink or something like that. Yeah.
Was there a particular reason why you chose to start working for a non-profit? Like what was attractive about it?
Actually, because I went to design school and I hated it.
Fair. That's like 90% of the people that go through design school.
And I hated it because my prospects didn't attract me at all.
What were they? I
didn't want to be a sales designer or maybe at that point I was still quite young, right? So I was like, oh my god, I'm just gonna end up drawing floor plans and doing 3D every day, and I hated that, and I never saw a way that I could just go to designing, direct into a job that allows me to design rather than to apply technical skills.
So there is a difference between the two.
Right, yeah. And I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. And I saw my friends, my peers actually, I was out of army at that point. My peers were volunteering for this design organization. They are non-profit. And they were talking to the people like downstairs at the HDB. And they were doing volunteer work. So I was like, oh cool. And then I clicked in and I saw this company, working together with the community and stuff like that. So I was like, if I'm going to be a designer and do all that boring stuff, the technical application stuff, I want to at least be able to work with the community, and it just seemed very interesting as an alternative. There was nothing else like it. Yeah, and until now I feel like they are still quite special.
Yep.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons this particular point in your journey taught you? Because I find it the most interesting. Because as you said, let's say going through design school, the prospect is either you want to join an ad agency or you want to go out into more commercial design. But the decision to go into something like a non-profit, community-based focused design, I think that's quite interesting. So I want to know, at that point in your life, what were some of the lessons that it taught you?
The first thing was understanding what a non-profit organization is in Singapore.
So what do you understand it to be before and after?
Yeah, so before I thought I was like, it's probably going to be like charity work. And I was fine with that because I guess that's a good cause, right? And to be able to do it as a designer, it's like, this is something that I'm good at, and I can apply myself both professionally and then like, you know, to help. But then I realized that there are charity entities, and then there are non-profit organizations.
Okay.
And then there are for-profit, which could be social enterprises.
So there's 3 different delineations between. Okay.
I mean, there are many, I think, but like in that scene last time, this was the 3 main ones. And non-profit, essentially, if I'm not wrong, right, it means that, you know, the company runs like a normal company, but the profits that the company make channels back into the company to run initiatives.
Could you explain what these initiatives might look like?
Yeah, so initiatives, I think every year my boss last time would try to do like 1 or 2 pro bonos, and otherwise it could be like research or, you know, taking on a new project, right? That might require our expertise, and then it will accumulate into data.
Okay.
Yeah, or kind of just like information that will inform better practice. Yeah.
Is this with regards to the application of design, or is it for a particular social cause, or is it like a mix of everything?
Yeah, it could be a mix. So potentially it also could be us collaborating with a social enterprise in trying to see how design can empower their practice. Yeah.
Interesting. So, okay, before we move on to Bunker, I think when I did my research in preparation for this podcast, I think the word community and culture comes up quite often with regards to what Bunker stands for and what Bunker tries to do. So, since we have the opportunity here today, I'm curious to know, what is your idea of community, and has it changed across the years, like going up to now?
I think community is very important because that's where you find your people, and when you feel that you belong somewhere and you can be yourself in that safe space, that is where I feel like you can say that it's a community, right? And it cannot happen with one people, right? One person. I mean, yeah. So it has to happen with many individuals coming together, and it's more so something that is very important to understand, because there are online communities now as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's your other question?
Have you always held this particular idea, or did something change along the way? Be it someone, be it a community you were part of, or be it someone telling you something, you watching a film. Yeah. Have you always held this particular idea of what community means?
I've grown up in very different, like very various subcultures. So I played rock music growing up.
Okay.
But I used to dance hip hop.
That is two opposing factions that will probably never see eye to eye.
It kind of, yeah. And both of them, you know, when you're there, when you feel like you're part of something bigger, it's very empowering, right? Like, and you feel like you can be yourself, you can express, and you can be free to feel like you can make things happen, right? And I feel like that is something that's very powerful. Yeah, so community is definitely something that is very important to me, and to be able to foster and build strong communities is something that I feel like starts every amazing thing. Yeah.
Well, that's very poetic.
Yeah.
So how did you go from the non-profit to starting Bunker initially? What was that? Okay. How did that look like? What was that journey like?
So where we started Bunker was at Deck, where there was another bar called Mikkeller. And I used to part-time for them, for the same bosses. So that was our little like hangout spot. Right. So even though I was working as a designer, Deck was like very near to my workplace.
Okay.
So after work I will go there and hang out. And we always, I mean, for everybody that knows that place is special. Right? There's nowhere else like it in Singapore.
Are you able to put it into words as to why it's special?
So it sits on a very well-known street, but in a very unknown area, unknown portion of that well-known street, which is
It is pretty obscure. It is pretty obscure.
Yeah. And it sits like at the Singapore pool site and across from the LaSalle school. But then because if you look into it, right, it is the old walls from like the previous building with a very, I don't want to say rundown, but you get the point, right? Like
rustic
fencing and gate. And then it's just a stack of shipping containers, right? So if you don't know what's inside, you will never know, right? Unless you really go and step in. And that was one thing when I realized when we opened Bunker at the start, a lot of people would come in and ask us, what is this place? And a lot of people would actually stop at the gate, look inside, and then walk off.
I mean, to their point, it looks pretty. I mean, the compound looks very weird. It's just stacks of shipping containers. I think the bar was right in front. There's a gate. Yeah. Okay.
And I think there was always this hidden line where you like don't know, if you don't know what's inside, then you don't know whether you can go in. Yeah, and a lot of people were always like, they always stand outside and then they would look in, try to see what's going on. And it often took us, this is what I learned also last time in my previous job when I had to talk to people on the streets and like talk to the uncle downstairs, right? Like when they look at your pop-up and they're like, what's going on? You have to do this, like you have to gesture to them to like actually come in. And once I think if they see a smile or they see a gesture, then they will come in. And most people will be like, oh, cool, you know, like this. I didn't know that this was a bar, or I didn't know that this was F&B. Yeah. So that was, I mean, it's very special, that place. Yeah.
Okay. So that was
I didn't answer your question, right?
So that was the birthplace of Bunker. Or you mentioned that you were part-timing at the bar?
Oh yeah. So how I started was I felt like because I was about 2 years into the job and I enjoyed the job thoroughly, but it was quite it's quite a shack job lah, you know, like
it is. I would assume so. Yeah,
it's intense, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, and at that point I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a quick degree, right? And to understand more lah, a little bit about the social studies about that industry. So I was going to do social sciences, you know, like, but so initially I was supposed to go to school, but then that place vacated. And every time when we hang out there, we will always fantasize about what we're going to do there, you know? So I was like, this place is going to be gone.
What place is going to be gone? The bar?
Keola, the bar was moving out. I was like, we're going to lose this place. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, so we were in a frenzy at that point. We were like, is someone jokingly said, you take over.
Okay.
And then I was like, let's run the numbers.
How drunk were you when you said that?
Quite.
Okay.
But it was a serious conversation. It turned out to be quite a serious conversation. And I was like, oh man, I think it's possible. Right, you know, like basically what we did with our current place, like Club Street, we literally put in 3 fridges and we are good. We started, you know, like, because yeah, you know, like it was kind of like a plug and play, but then yeah, so at the same time I was like, oh my God, like if I had this space, I can do so many things.
Yep.
Yeah, and it really, really like tempted me enough to just be like, let's find out how to do this, let's get it done, you know. So they moved out in April of 2018. I started the company in June, and by August we were operational.
Okay, what were the early days like then?
The early days were very, very tiring.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I thought I could run 10 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week.
Okay.
And not burn out, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like as a designer, I feel like I've gone through or seen like enough people burn out to like see it coming.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, by the 6 month, six month, we burn out already.
So it was like start of 2019 or end of the year basically.
Yeah, and we were essentially, because it was 2 of us doing food, drinks, prep, events, like everything we bao ka liao. Right? And yeah, I realized that like I'm not meant to be in the kitchen.
What experience or event, what happened in the kitchen to make you say that?
So there are points that I can look back and like I I can remember times where I was in the kitchen and I'm like, fuck, can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
I was like, oh fuck man, I'm like this close to like crying already. Like there was one time, right, I was working alone.
Yep.
And I didn't know that the deep fryer, right, there is a minimum and maximum indicator, right?
Okay.
So I was like, I fill it up to the maximum. I got enough oil. What? And of course, right, oil when it heats up to like 200, 300 degrees, it expands, right? So it was hot oil just leaking everywhere, all over the kitchen.
Oh God.
And I was like, I'm done, man. I'm like, I'm done. Really, like at that point, I was like, we're closing the kitchen. Like, yeah. And yeah, thankfully we did that. So that has also allowed us to open up the space in the kitchen to bring in what has been, I think, maybe like up to 10 different small brands or people or food pop-ups and stuff like that. Yeah.
Would you agree that the idea of starting Bunker back then in 2018 when McKellen moved out and you guys started the idea, was it more like a leap of faith?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There was, I mean, a leap of faith in some sense, definitely, right? But like I was very sure what I wanted to do with the space, right? Which was to do a lot of collaborations, bring in a lot of like subculture, whether it's music or art or design, use the space. And yeah, I used to tell everybody, I'm slutting out the space, right?
Yeah,
tell me what you want to do, we will do it, we'll make it happen. And the last thing on my mind when I started was the F&B portion. Yeah.
So the experience of the space and the culture of the space comes first before the actual, I guess, product. So actually the product of the space is the culture. Like, it's not the food.
Yeah.
The beer.
That's why I say we are pseudo F&B, because my mission is to create a brand that anywhere it can be a safe space. Yeah. And so it's kind of like a 5-year plan. Okay. Because I knew I would never last in the F&B industry.
Like selling food
and drinks. Yeah, I'm already like not about that, right? Like, yeah, so, but I understood that it was very salient for us to have that to bring the people. Yeah. And yeah, so I think we kind of like made it work.
So how far are we into this 5-year plan?
We are now 3 years. We just celebrated our 3rd year anniversary.
So how did COVID fuck with this 5-year plan?
So I don't know whether COVID is going to accelerate the 5-year plan or to decelerate the 5-year plan. Yeah, because I imagine after the 5 years, it was just to like, do this pseudo F&B and then close. Oh, right. And because I understand that once we are established in terms of what we can do, right, with activation of spaces and events and stuff like that, we don't need our own space anymore.
Why is that?
Because space is readily available, and we can go out and do things. Yeah, and we can pop up like in a restaurant, we can pop up in a field, we can, whatever it is we do, I feel like it doesn't have to be like our own space, Yeah, as long as the brand can assure you that you are in a safe space when we are happening. Yeah.
Interesting. Could you paint a picture as to how reaching out for the first collab you guys ever had at Bunker was like? Was it someone you know? Was it someone that you are familiar with in the previous subcultures that you mentioned? What was it like?
Definitely, it was just all friends. Like for the first half of the year at the very start, it was really just as many friends as I can show. Yeah, and the first pop-up we did was with this guy who was studying law. Okay. But loved to cook. Okay. Right? And so he had a side hustle where he would do pop-ups. And before I started the business, he sat me down and he was like, yo, I'm going to teach you how to do food costing. And I was like, oh man. Like, if he didn't do that for me, I think it would have took me a very long time. Not just knowing how to count cost of food and everything, but how to price things. Yeah. when I started, I was selling French fries at like $4 and like a giant bowl.
Okay.
And I was like, this is what the people want. Like,
I'm sure it's what the people want, but
yeah, but like totally did not make sense for the business, right? But yeah, so I mean, yeah, stuff like that lah. But definitely a lot of the initial collaborations were friends and asking everyone who wants to do something, right? Like, yeah.
So, as Bunker is situated in Singapore, I think the conversation around Singapore and particularly arts and cultural issues and cultural stuff is that we lack culture, or comparatively to, let's say, like the West or even Japan, there is a lack of culture and there's like an apathetic nature towards it. I'm curious to know from your experience running Bunker throughout these years and interacting with people of different cultures, do you agree with the statement that Singapore doesn't have culture? And yeah, expound on that.
I think it's definitely untrue, but I can understand why people feel apathetic about it. I feel like there is very strong culture as a country. We have very strong Singaporean culture, but that is a bigger picture where, like, you know, what is exclusive to us as Singaporeans, right? Like being a city state, but having the hawker center.
Yep.
And I mean, that is by default lah, right? Our culture. Yep. Yeah. But the things that I want to push really is the subcultures and what it matters to people as we grow and as we grow older, especially, right? Because it's so important to have these communities and hobbies outside of whatever is your Monday to Friday. And to have that in your life I feel is very important, so that you can live a life that has meaning, right? Like, and to be able to understand joys outside of the material norms, right? Sure, you can go and like eat and drink like nice stuff, you know, like earn money and spend, but actually last time when you are young, you go do graffiti, and that is the most joy you have, right? And I want people to not stop doing it, right? Yeah, it doesn't mean that we start working and like we get a little bit older. I mean, yeah, so I think it's very important to keep pushing this into people's faces, in a way lah, right? You know?
Okay.
Because there's a huge disconnect. Like I see all my friends that like to drink, and then from my previous job, I see all these like people like in the social enterprise and stuff like that, and like nobody knows anything about each other, right? And like a lawyer will never suddenly want to go to an art show, but I'm like, if I put up all the art in the shop, and I'm like, hey, I got beer, come and drink, and immediately you are accessible to the art without even having to like, hey man, come for my art show, right? Yep. Yeah, and actually, to be honest, also, like, I think Singapore is doing a pretty good job with a National Gallery, a Science Museum. Yeah, so I think people are starting to take on, you know, like having a alternative in their lifestyle aside from the mundane. Yep. Yeah.
I think what I find most interesting is like we have grown to have pockets of subculture, but I think it is not, as you mentioned, it's not as exposed. Not many people know about it, and oftentimes, if you don't know about it, I mean, it's very difficult to even start searching or even be aware of something you don't know until someone, maybe the algorithm gods like show it on your feed on Instagram, or someone tells you about it. Then you're, oh, there's this tufting club that teaches me how to make carpets. Oh, then I go and look into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of, there's a whole wave lah, right? You slowly see it, like pottery is super popular now, and there are classes like, right, and all these like kind of handy skills and stuff like that, like that might seem like blue collar last time, is kind of becoming more lifestyle now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's super fun lah, right? You know, like I feel like our generation will definitely push all these subcultures and to create more in the landscape in Singapore.
I think it's still very early days.
It is definitely, yeah.
To an earlier point you shared earlier about dance, hip-hop, and playing music, rock. I'm curious to know how do you get exposed to these two things? Was it something you saw? Was it a friend? Was it school? Because these are two very, how would I say, very meticulous subculture that you either have to be listening to, let's say, a particular genre of music, or you have to be I don't know, exposed through dance, through other means, like let's say back then MTV and stuff like that.
Oh, MTV,
Yeah. I have no idea where the channel has gone, but yeah. Like the 90s MTV specifically.
I mean, shout out to my parents. Like,
Okay.
they, you know, like my mom was the one who asked me to go and take a dance class.
What?
Yeah, because she saw it, and the kids were dancing outside of the studio in the mall. And then she was like, "Oh, you know all these kids dancing. Like, maybe you should go and check it out."
Could you share how old you were and what year was
I
this?
started dancing when I was 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in secondary school.
Yeah.
I was like, very like chaotic
Sure.
teenager,
As,
right?
as most teenagers are. Lah.
Yeah, and like actually, when I started dancing, I was the only person in my school that was dancing. So that was very strange for me as well. But then I built this other family of friends, you know, like that are outside of school, and my mom asked me to go and dance. And then how I started playing music, I don't know, man. I was drawn to the drums.
The drums.
I just liked it.
Okay.
And I asked my mom whether I can go for a class. Yeah. And then I just started from there.
Are these still? Do you still interact with these two particular subcultures today, or have you moved on from them?
The dance is something I've kind of left behind. But I think the culture is what I feel like is still very strong in Singapore, and there's a place for anybody that wants to like be a part of it. So I still feel connected. Yeah, and I've definitely had friends, longtime friends, right? Like that have been, and we've grown up together. And I think music is just something that I can enjoy anytime. Yeah, so it's nice to be able to like, hey, want to go jam this weekend, and then we just go and play.
Without anything in mind?
Yeah. I mean, okay lah. I mean, if you're proficient, then I think like it's not too hard to be able to just play. Yeah.
Very interesting. I'm curious to know what part has these cultures played in your journey? Yeah.
Actually, the very thing about these two cultures that I think I enjoyed so much was the music.
Okay,
right?
but they're so different.
They are actually the same.
Rock and hip hop.
Yeah.
Explain.
So if you listen to old school hip hop, right, it's a 4-on-the-floor beat. It's or like, you know, Run DMC, Aerosmith, that Walk This Way song.
That collab, yeah.
Easily like both genres, right? And I think it all stems from black culture music long ago, right?
Yep.
All the jazz and stuff, like, I mean, it trickles down and it became their own kind of genre. So I feel like because I've seen both sides, I can kind of put them together as well. Yeah, and that was very enjoyable for me. Yeah, other than, you know, being part of something bigger than myself. Myself. Yeah.
Being part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, so the community aspect and, you know, the whole subculture. Because when you immerse, right, like, I remember going on YouTube and just searching all the hip hop history and like rock and roll history, and then you have your rock gods and you go back and you learn about them. Yep. And it's a lot of like understanding what it's like. These influences that have come from far away. Yep. And they are so big.
Have you tried to see any of these bands live before? Or are you a fan of live
my
performances?
favorite band is Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I've seen them twice. The first time I saw them was at Fuji Rock Festival
in Japan
at the 10th anniversary, and they were playing because they were the very first year Fuji Rock. They were the headliners, so they are back to headline the 10th anniversary. That was just crazy. That was like a dream come true for me. And yeah, I think that's the furthest I've chased a band. I think everybody should try to go to Fuji Rock once in their life.
What's so special about it compared to the other festivals out there?
It's not trashy.
Like the selection of music, or what? What is?
I mean, maybe it's the Japanese culture, like, but also they have very like how do I put it? Is they just enjoy life without the need for like alcohol and drugs and stuff like that, which happens at every festival, sure. But like for them, it's like super family. Like Fuji Rock is a family festival.
It's what do you mean a family festival? Like people bring their kids there?
Yeah, and it's from what I understand, the Japanese people, right, that attend the festival with their families, like it's a tradition for them. And if they see like people misbehaving in the festival, and it could be like normal festival things like jumping around. Okay, maybe not jumping around, like taking a piss by the tree, right?
Okay.
They are super upset about stuff like that. Like it's very proper, it's very like, what's that word? I don't know. Wholesome, very wholesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the amazing thing about Fuji Rock is that it is in the mountains, the ski mountains, right? But during summer, so it's massive. It's huge, and then like there's so many different things going on. Everybody's like super friendly. Yeah, so there's a lot of things to see, a lot of people to meet. Yeah, it's just super fun. And camping as well. Camping on the festival grounds. Camping? Yeah, man, for sure.
Like outdoors camping or glamping, or is it any specific?
We were super amateurs. It was outdoor camping. We reached like at sundown.
Okay.
And then we couldn't find a spot, so we camped on a slanted ground.
That sounds terrible. I think that's what they tell you not to do.
Yeah, there was only spot left, and we had to build our tent in the middle of the night, like when the sun was down, right? Yeah. So yeah, all of that was just like, now I know. And then like you go to the festival, you're super unprepared, like, cause I wasn't really. I've been to like laneway, like stuff that happened in Singapore, right? And when you reach like a festival on that scale, whoa, like people are like super prepared, yeah.
What do you mean prepared?
They have their barbecue pits and their, I don't know, like 10 portable chargers.
You said something about climbing up a mountain, or it's in the mountains or something, right?
Yeah. So you like even getting there is like the journey already, right? Like you have to switch the train, take the right train.
Yep.
Then after that you reach the station, then you have to walk to the mountain.
Yep.
And then you have to like kind of check in. Then you check in and then you go to the festival ground. And then you find out where the toilets are. Everything is like kind of like it's massive. So it's very different from what I've ever been to in Singapore, for sure. Yeah. I'm
gonna take a little tangent in the conversation, and I'm gonna ask. I'm curious to know: are you a fan of traveling?
Yes.
Could you explain, or could you even talk about what attracts you to traveling? What is so attractive about it?
To be honest, right? Like I think it's you have to, for like as any other experiences that you like kind of go for in life, like traveling has to be something that you are ready to see new things and accept new things and be able to. The most amazing thing is that you cannot prepare yourself for mind-blowing things that you see when you travel.
Like because you can't anticipate it?
Yeah, because you have no idea that it exists.
Sure.
And when it happens, you're like, oh my god, like this is what I'm here for, right?
Yep.
I didn't know, but now I know.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other aspect is company lah. Yeah, so whether it's backpacking or traveling with friends, I think it's always very important to find the right people to travel with. Yeah, and people you meet at hostels and stuff, they're kind of there for the same reasons. Yeah, so I backpack quite a bit, so you meet people in like bars or like at the market and stuff like that. But like once you have met someone like that and you feel like, well, like you can make plans for the next few days and just hang out together, that's very important as well.
Is there a difference between backpacking and the normal 4-day 3-night thing? What is backpacking?
I mean, backpacking just allows you to be super flexible lah, and to be able to just do whatever you want, I feel. And also traveling on a budget is a very different experience from, like traveling as a paid package, and you go as a tourist, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so
do you get to experience the destination differently, or what is so different between, let's say, a backpacker, like the experience of a backpacker, and like you mentioned, like a paid package? Why would someone choose like to backpack?
I mean, I would prefer a backpacker because like going on a tour just feels like you are going on a tour, right? And you just eat and see and take in whatever that package is lah, right? But actually without the package you can do that also.
Yep.
And being able to not see a new place on the surface level is very important for me. Yeah. So if you meet someone like say I'm in Spain and I meet like a bartender and I'm talking about craft beer and we are both very passionate about it, and he's like, okay, we're gonna close shop and go to another place. I bring you, like, a little bit sketch, but okay, you know,
damn sketch, dude.
yeah, but like, okay, let's go, you know, then I can have these kind of experiences, right? And those are the things that I feel like you will remember the most. Yeah.
Are you able to remember like an unexpected surprise from one of your travels before?
Oh.
Or was it so far that you since traveled the last time that you don't remember?
It's been a while. It's been a while. Because like since Bunker started 3 years ago, I've only traveled twice.
Okay.
And it was with friends, and I did not care what the plan was. I was just like, okay, we are going, let's go. But yeah, I mean, I was in Vietnam once, and there was a bar at the first level of the hostel.
Pretty normal. Okay.
Right, normal, right? So what will naturally end up happening is that everybody will be there at like 6 p.m, 7 p.m.
Like dinner time.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And then we will be drinking, right? And then so everybody will naturally become friends, and everybody will be like, oh, I went to this place, I went to that place. Yesterday we went there, like this place is really cool. And people are like, okay, let's go now. Then everybody just go. And you have no idea sometimes, like, and also like a place like Vietnam, right? Sometimes it might feel like the streets are like dark and dodgy, but actually it's just their normal road. Yeah. So you go through that experience of like, oh my god, where are we going? You know, this might be a little bit sketch. But then when you reach there, you're like, oh man, like a secret beach party, like, yeah. And yeah, it's just amazing when things like that happen.
Even it's all like random encounters. Like even like people living in the hostel, you can't plan who's gonna stay there as well.
Exactly.
How long they're gonna stay there for, and what they're gonna do that day as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that brings a lot more joy to like that whole experience of like leaving and going somewhere far away to do something, you know. Yeah. Otherwise, I think it's very cosmetic, the idea of like traveling to travel. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of Singaporeans, we crave the escape. Yep. Yeah, but there is local tourism actually, you know.
Tourism.
To be a tourist in your own country. I remember like 90% of my friends probably haven't been to Lim Chu Kang and know that there are like big farms and like or like Ubin, and to actually meet natives of Ubin. Yeah, I think like there's a lot to see in Singapore as well. Yeah.
Is there a particular travel destination that you're fond of?
As with most Singaporeans, I love Bali.
Why? Isn't it an island of degeneracy? Or multiple islands of degeneracy?
Yeah, man, but like I think, you know, it's so accessible to us. And to be able to just plonk yourself on the beach for however long you're there for, right? But like to be able to go there and come back quickly, just like really just taste a bit of like paradise for a bit and then come back. I think that is quite like crazy to have. Yeah.
You mentioned something about local tourism. Could you speak a little bit on that? Like, what does that look like? Yeah.
So it's kind of like reverse of what I do in Bunker, right? Like where I try to bring interesting things into my space. But yeah, there are many interesting things to go and see in Singapore. And like I heard your previous podcast, they were talking about the Dragon Kiln.
Yeah,
right?
Jurong, yeah.
Yeah, like if you go to Dragon Kiln and see it, right, it's insane. It is
pretty insane.
Yeah, and like I know Bollywood veggies is starting to get pretty popular. Yeah, and like my mom loves to bring, because my mom grew up in Lim Chu Kang, So she loves to bring her overseas friends like to just drive around Lim Chu Kang and see like the fish farms. And you know, if you go to the other end, there is like the Singapore Kelong. And you can actually, is it called Kelong? Yeah, Kelongs, right? And you can actually stay on the Kelong.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and you can, and then if I'm not wrong, you stay, right, they will private zi cha for you. And it's like fresh fish, like right there.
Yeah.
From the ocean to your plate. Like,
a bit inhumane, but it is what it is.
yeah, but yeah, lor. But I mean, a couple years back also that onsen at Kranji, I think, became quite popular, and that's always been there, you know, like, yeah. So many things to see lah, I think, in Singapore, and it's really not that far away, but sometimes it also kind of feels like a different world.
Do you think sometimes like these are overlooked for quote unquote better experiences overseas? Or like what kind of like romanticize like the idea of traveling out, but we overlook whatever that we might have here?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, it's easy to understand why. And I feel like it's probably more exciting to go to Japan and see an onsen than go to Kranji. But like, you know, I mean,
you take what you can get lah sometimes.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, I think especially like these last 2 years with COVID, I feel like it has kind of forced people to be like, to kind of explore their own country a little bit. Like just changing your mode of transport from taking a cab to riding a bicycle.
Yep.
Immediately is different, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's something that I do feel like it's overlooked. Yeah.
Have you
if
made
you just want to do like a 1 day activity.
A 1 day activity?
Right. Like just 1 day, just go and ride bicycle somewhere that you've never been before, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Like I stay in the West, so when I go to Punggol, it's like, for me, I feel like I'm traveling.
Okay. Not to dox you, but is it like the far west? Like the chemical plants there, or?
Oh, no, not that far.
Far. Okay.
I grew up in Bukit Panjang.
Yep.
And then now I stay at Bukit Batok area.
Okay.
But yeah, but you still, you know, like going to...
Is
like,
the air different there?
Like Pasir Ris? No,
not different?
Not that I can smell.
Okay. Okay. I've always had this theory that the air is a bit different in the west compared to the east.
Maybe in Tuas. No, it's just like, even if you go to Tuas, right, you will be like, what the hell is this place, man? Like, yeah.
But it's interesting to see. I think as much as Singapore tries to, I mean, Singapore has always been, I think culturally very homogenized, even though culturally, like on individual level, even like a small group level, there have been very, very strong pockets of culture. But I think it shows in the different communities, in the different parts of Singapore. Like it just shows there. But even though from a macro perspective top down, it looks very homogenized. But if you actually spend time to talk to people and to look into the different races and how they do different things, I think there's a pocket. There's so much difference and diversity over there, which I think it's quite beautiful in a sense.
Yeah, I also think that we are special in that sense where we have so many. We are so diverse, right? There is that co-living in our small spaces, but that the individual cultures and subcultures are all very strong and very alive, and it's quite beautiful, you know. Yeah.
So going back to the discussion and the conversation on subcultures, I'm curious to know, from your perspective, have you noticed anything changing over the years?
I think we as a country are more open to accepting or being trying to assess these kind of subcultures now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it used to be very siloed, or like it also you know, like when you are in a subculture, you get so deep in it that you don't see what's happening outside.
Yep. Right.
And I feel like there could be more cross in subcultures as well, because you end up being in an echo chamber sometimes. Yeah, and a lot of these subcultures we usually stand for something, right? And stand for pushing something that we believe in,
like the craft or like some values of it.
And if you cannot empathize from the other side, then it's very hard to actually make connection. Yeah, and I think now it's a lot easier, especially with digital content.
Yep.
But also I feel like the government is finally pushing harder on the arts and like design and stuff like that. Yeah, because I think that they are starting to understand how important it is to our local culture.
Okay.
Yeah, in general as well.
So
Yeah.
to follow that up, why do you think the arts is important from your perspective?
If there was no religion, right, I feel like art would be that thing that fills the gap, the void, right? And to be something bigger than everyone, but at the same time, available to everyone in the way that they want it to be, right? Because you consume art and it becomes what you want it to be, right? And and usually once the artist is done, like whatever he or she has made or whatever is without an explanation, then it's no longer kind of theirs anymore, right?
Yeah, it's out there. It's up for interpretation for people to criticize, to comment and whatever.
Yeah, and I feel like that allows the freedom of being able to have people think and kind of like manifest their own message.
Yeah.
And then that is how you have different groups of people that will come together that way, right? Like I feel like I'm saying it like quite confusing, but like how religions are, you know. Yeah. And if there's something to believe in, then I feel like it is the creation and creation of art and what it can ultimately influence. Yeah. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I think so it goes beyond something just on the canvas, or it goes beyond like an illustration. It goes far beyond that because it kind of affects people more profoundly, and it influences the way they think, and it changes and shifts their perspectives for the good and for the bad. I mean, that is just how the world is set up. But in a way, it changes it's such a lame word, but the paradigm of how people are thinking. Because without that, then everyone would kind of be the same. But the fact is that someone produces a piece of art, the community sees it, and they change, and you just keep building from there. Yeah.
And also the freedom to create whatever it is you want to create, and you know, like, I think that it's apparent lah, right? Even just for like music and how big a following different types of music can garner. So I think that is kind of like the subculture god lah, you know. Yeah.
So
in its own way lah.
I've always been curious as to why individuals have their what has contributed to the different perspective that individuals have. So I think initially you mentioned that you enjoyed the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
Would you consider them as, like, let's say a band and their craft, the music they make, as something very influential throughout your years of growing up and even up to now? And if so, why?
For sure. I mean, I started listening to them super early on, right? Like 12 years old.
12? Wow.
Because my mom came back with a Red Hot Chili Peppers poster. Like, that was related to her work stuff lah.
Sure.
And it was just one of the collaterals.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, what's this Stadium Arcadium? And that's really like, don't know how many albums in already, right? Red Hot Chili Peppers. So when I started listening, I was like, wow, they are so different because they are funk rock, and their lyrics don't make sense sometimes. And unless you know what they're singing about, you kind of don't know, but it amazed me, right? It was like, wow, this is a whole new world, man. And of course, all of their craziness came from drugs, right? But I didn't know when I was so young, right? Yeah. So now I know, but then like at that time it was to me like a whole new world that they presented as just their music, their lyrics, and yeah, there's for me like not many other bands that play the kind of music that they play.
What about even up to now? Are they still releasing new music, or?
I think their last album was like 3-4 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, I don't keep up with them because my romance with them is all their old music.
And it reminds you of like when you were young listening to them.
Yeah, and like learning all their songs, and And yeah, coincidentally, one of the first songs that I learned how to play, and I felt like, ooh, I'm a drummer. You know, it's one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers songs. Yeah.
Okay, so to follow up for that, I think you mentioned an interesting point, which is it opens up a whole new world, or it feels like listening to their music at the point in time, it's like opening a whole new world.
Right.
So I'm curious to know, like, recently, has there been something that you have consumed, let's say, be it like movies or films or even music or books that has groomed that particular experience? Like, oh, it's like a whole new thing, or yeah.
I would say podcasts.
Okay.
Right. Because there are not many, there are like millions of podcasts out there, right?
Yeah.
And to find the one that you will religiously listen to is, I feel, quite special. And I found some amazing podcasters. And the wonderful thing about podcasts is that podcasters speak to people that you might never know of and introduce them on a level where you feel like you know them just from one podcast. And then based on that, you can be like, I am going to read up on this person as much as I can. And like that will take you into like the next week.
Yep.
Finding out about a brand new person and what they do. And I mean, it just opens so many like doors.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
But it's kind of like like a new way of learning. I mean,
I think
as to how I think about the whole podcasting phenomenon, as to how, I mean, in recent years, it has been said that people are graduating from YouTube University, meaning that whatever you want to do, whatever business you want to start, whatever career you want to have, even like almost recently, like if you want to go to, let's say, design university, there are people showcasing their journey to design school and all that. Whatever you can imagine, it's on YouTube.
It's there. And I've learned from YouTube to be a better designer than I've learned in my 3 years of school.
So
you know?
to take that further, and because we've both been through design school,
right?
What do you think perhaps the future of design education will look like?
I think design is something you have to practice, and it's something you have to go through slowly to learn the becoming of a designer. And technical application is something that we mostly learn in school. So I think that school is good for that. But at the same time, I think 3 years, 4 years learning how to build a model of paper and learning how to, right? Because like if you're teaching me how to 3D something, why am I building it with like
paper?
Yeah, I mean, at that point of time, it was so irrelevant. I was like, I know how to do it. Like this seems just like so much time and money. You know, like all these kids in school crying and bleeding, and I'm like, this is toxic as fuck. You know, like, but that's what we all have to go through to graduate.
Yep.
And I'm like, I've taken none of that nonsense to my design jobs at all, right? And most designers will eventually realize, like, if they freelance or not, they'll be like, oh, this is nothing like school, right? It either comes down to like money, or doing it like for the love of, which and I think school provides like half of that. Like they allow you to do fantasy projects. Right. Without having to care about like budget and everything. Yeah. So I think the internship part of school is the most important.
It's like the reality. It
is the reality, yeah. And I mean, so I assume we both went through army as well. And I think, yeah, all these processes, you know, I feel like it takes too long. Yeah, like do you remember sitting on range day waiting to shoot one bullet,
it's mind-boggling how much time is wasted.
Yeah, the whole day we sit out in the field to shoot one time. It's like I feel like school was like that for me. Yeah. Do
you perhaps, okay, so this is taking a tangent into possibilities. Do you foresee the education changing? And I think the reason why I asked that because technology is out of the bag. What I mean by that is like unless something major happens, YouTube is gonna be there. All these Skillshares, Brilliant, all these teaching sites are gonna be there, and that the truly interested and the dedicated will go seek these out, irregardless of let's say like more paper qualifications, irregardless of any like qualifications that you have to apply for. So I'm curious to know how do you imagine the education system changing, or would it even change? Because it's always playing catch up. It's always gonna play catch up to whatever's out there, and unfortunately, it has to cast, or it has to have a very wide net for people to go through the system. It is true. It is still a system ultimately.
Yeah, I think education. I don't mean to keep talking about NS, but like the army, right? It employs a lot of people.
Yep.
Right. It gives a lot of people jobs.
Yep.
And it is something that and it's top down, right?
Yep.
So it is a provider of many people's livelihood and lives, families. As far as I feel education will change, I think it would be similar to what technology has done for every industry, is to render certain job scopes irrelevant, right? And there is no AI or technology that will ever be able to replace a good mentor.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like the education system will probably have to move in that way, right? And all the technical stuff, what we were learning in school, right, last time, I can do on my phone.
Yeah.
It's insane. I went to school for nothing, but and the one on your phone is like a game, it's so intuitive, and you don't need to go to school to learn these kind of things anymore. And so I believe this is actually a good thing. It allows us to leave all this like technical nonsense behind and focus on the job, focus on what we are there to learn, right? And focus on becoming, if it's design, then becoming a good designer, right? What it means, what does design mean to you? What does design mean to the person you're designing for? And you can do that and can learn that from YouTube, but if you don't have a mentor that can show you a way of doing things or a way of thinking and to share experiences, then I feel like it's very hard also. Yeah, so I mean, having a good teacher is something that I think will keep education alive.
I think having good educators, teachers, or mentors is the one aspect that is quite difficult to calculate from a numbers or even like a statistics point of view, because everybody would. Yes, there are a lot of like bad eggs and bad teachers that, I mean, for whatever fuck reasons, they would teach badly. But I think most people would remember like a particular educator or a good teacher that perhaps said something inconsequential at that time, but has stuck with the student and perhaps even motivated the individual to pursue greater things. I think everyone would have that one particular individual.
Like my teacher from secondary school that I remember the most and I'm close to taught me English when actually he was a maths teacher.
Okay.
And I'm like, none of the real lessons I've learned are from school, are from our time when we met in school. But that I think there's it transcends, right? It transcends the education portion.
Yep. Yeah. I think for me personally, it would be interesting to see how education system, let's say in Singapore, changes, because I think as much progress that they have made, I think education right now isn't like what we think it was back then. I think they have been making strides, but it is always going to play catch up. Unfortunately,
for sure.
Yeah,
our education is behind, man. But I think they have realized, and they are trying their best to change. But it is a big change that will take some time.
Yeah. So okay, since we touched on the topic of mentors, I'm curious to know, have you had a mentor before?
Sure. I think at every stage of life, for every thing you pursue, you will seek a mentor, like someone will naturally be there. And
let's say for Bunker when you started, who was your mentor, Darren?
So for Bunker, it's definitely my boss from my previous job.
The McKellen, the one who owns McKellen?
Not McKellen, Participate in Design.
Okay.
Yeah, so the design organization. So they do participatory design. And it's
what is participatory design?
Yeah, so mouthful.
Yeah.
I took some time to like get that, like. And participatory design is a methodology of design where you involve all levels of stakeholders, or as many as you can, from top down and bottom and ground up, right? So that's why when we get a job, say to design, to redesign or to reimagine the public spaces in this HDB neighborhood, your top down will be your MP, RC, all these people, right? The government portion.
Yep.
And then your ground up will be the residents and everybody. And to go in depth in critical engagement with every level is a long process.
And it's rough.
Yeah. But it is a long process and intense and emotional, but the outcome will be something that is more sustainable society-wise. Because everybody that is involved is immediately empowered to have a say, to be part of something that
because
bigger,
they have a part to play, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay, so they are involved. They are invested. Right. And yeah, it could be something simple like inviting the whole HDB to paste a border cap into an art feature wall. But once I have that action that is being done, they're like, oh, I'm part of it, man. Like, that's me. Like, and it's in their neighborhood and they will protect it. They will keep it safe. They will be upset if something happens to it, right? And that's kind of like the community empowering portion of it and stuff like that.
I'm curious to know why you personally feel that this would be important with regards to the arts. Yeah. Why is this idea of involving everybody to feel a sense of connection to it? Why is it important?
You have to. I mean, I think we are naturally people of community, right? Like I don't need to keep saying that, but like
every time Keola drinks, every time Keola says the word community,
like herd mentality, right? But like, I mean, you have to take ownership of your people and your space, and I think that is something that a lot of us we forget sometimes, because especially in Singapore when everything is given, and when things go wrong, people will complain and be like and stick their hand out, right? And ask for more, but we don't realize that as a people we are stronger and we can make a lot of things happen actually. Yeah, and that is something that I learned is a very amazing thing through the right facilitation and the right engagement.
Yep.
People come together and do amazing things, and it's as simple as that actually.
So in adopting the same mentality that you just said, how would something like this play out in, let's say, when Bunker wants to engage with, let's say, an artist to do like a pop? How does that look like?
So for Bunker it's a little bit more flexible, right? In my previous job we have clients, we have people to answer to, we have KPIs and
all very special things,
right? Yeah, and with Bunker, like I get to make all the decisions and I get to decide how intense the engagement is.
How
right?
intense the engagement
right? Do we want
is?
to engage an artist and go all the way, do a show, do a workshop?
Yep.
Really like talk about their craft, or do you just want to do something that like we do a low effort intervention and then see what happens, right? And then we can prototype, right? Yeah, essentially prototyping is, for me, is like a very big thing as well, because you get to test and you get to fail fast and get back better.
Like prototyping the event?
Prototyping anything. I think like prototyping anything in life is great, right? Like just try. You just try first and then like you see how, right? I think usually people will make very big plans in their head.
Yep.
And it's hard to come together.
Yep.
But when you try, you fail fast, you get to react quicker with lesser output, Yeah.
Who taught you the lesson that failing fast is actually a pretty good way of going about things? Because I think it's it's not something that everybody will know. I mean, failure is it feels like the big boogeyman sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. So is it always indicative of your nature to think of things like that?
I think I'm very averse to risk.
Okay.
But also I think it's something that every designer should kind of actually have, right? Because we do prototype in like, even from school, right?
You iterate, you iterate.
You have to try first,
whatever,
right? You have to try, and then and going through like many rounds of consultation is a normal thing, right? So actually, things when they don't work, is actually a good thing, right? So you know how to improve.
But to that point, failing fast on Adobe Illustrator is very different from failing fast when running a business and doing events. Yes?
That's true.
Can we both agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think especially at the start, right? I was very adamant. Like we need to push the artists, right? Like, and we did like one artist every month. We did an activation for it. We did artist engagement day, and we pushed the sales of artwork. And it soon became very clear that that was a system that took a lot of effort, and we had no idea how much returns we would get. Yeah, and so after that, I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. Let's just, what is the simplest thing we can do, right? Hang an artwork on the wall. Everyone that walks in, that asks, we will tell you about it. Everyone that sits for 15 minutes in the shop looking around, we will tell you about it. And immediately that was way better engagement directly to the artist, right? And then from there we just learn how do we play with the space, and to use the space as the kind of strategy to like slowly incept these kind of things to the consumers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's also about being flexible with what you initially plan and having the humility to say, okay, maybe this time might not work.
And I believe like, the whole 5-year plan that I have in my head, is not super concrete, right?
Okay.
And I know that like no 5-year plan is going to turn out the
so it's
same.
like step 1, step 2, step 3 is the question mark, then profit lah.
Right.
Step 4.
Yeah. And so essentially it is 5 years of prototyping that I have given myself time to eventually be like, okay, maybe after 5 years I will know how things are supposed to be done. And yeah, it's been super fun just trying and doing like many different things at many different scales. Yeah.
Could you speak to the recent event that you threw with Laughing Tiger as well as Russell? I mean, what considerations did you have? Because we are going through a period of COVID. We have different considerations to have. So how was that event planned differently compared to events that you might have planned initially before? What type of maneuvers and I think adaptations you have to have as an organizer going into that? Considerations even.
Yeah. Last time we can really just throw party with
no fucks given.
No fucks given, really.
Okay.
Like we can just spam everybody, tell your friends.
Okay.
Right? like my old space, right? People bring in fucking like nonsense tiger beer stuff. They were not nonsense tiger beer, but like their own drinks, right? They will just bring their own drinks.
Okay.
And I was very happy with that, right? Because as long as the space was drawing people, I'm like, treat it as a public space. Do what you will, as long as it's not illegal, right?
Yep.
And I was very happy, because like if you have a DJ spinning, right? You want people to essentially come for the music on that day, and I'm okay, if you bring a drink in and finish and then maybe buy some from me.
That's a very interesting way of thinking about things, to be honest.
I'm like, okay right? Whatever.
Yeah.
But now it's like we have to be like, okay, let's plan out who do we think is gonna show up. Who do we think are the right people to like really like push the event to?
Yep.
Who do we personally invite? How many people can we hold? And it's a lot more, which is, I guess, maybe on a professional event production level, that's what they do. Yeah, but that's just been very different for me to have to plan every step and to be like, hey, you know, if the police come, this is what we do. Like that's crazy, yeah. Like
so that has never happened before. Like initially,
it's not that it never happens. It's just that now the stakes are way higher, right? Like, and it's not as if we are doing illegal things. It's just a precaution that you must consider. Yeah, it's a conversation you must have. Yeah, and and it's so strange to have to like count people. Yeah,
I think it's strange for you because if not how you would normally run things is you don't count.
Yeah, I mean, you just do like I see a lot of people. Okay, good. Yeah. Nobody come. Okay, we try again next time. You know, like
so it's either 0 or 100 over.
Yeah.
It's over 100.
Yeah, so yeah, like this kampong proves that you know, the factor of collaboration and bringing the right entities together and creating the right environment and really draws the right energy after all in the space and the experience. Yeah.
So as the last point to this, what would you take away from going through COVID into running Bunker Bunker? What was like a learning lesson?
I think there was a period where I cannot remember whether it's definitely after the lockdown. So like it was a period.
Which one?
The first one.
The very first one.
The very first one.
Okay.
And yeah, so we have adjusted now, right? I think close to 10 times really our regulations, right? As F&B operators. And there was this point where I was like, this is it. The business is going to tow already.
Yep.
Like, you know, we cannot sustain. And I read an article by a New York restaurant owner. I cannot recall which restaurant was it, but it was a very long article about her romance letter to the restaurant scene and food, right? And talking about how they have been around for over 20 years. And sure, you know, COVID is a challenge, but the reality is that F&B, or I guess any business, comes with challenges, right? And it's just one of the challenges that you have to get over. And although that article was about her saying that saying like she said like good night, we are going to sleep for now and we will come back again, maybe, right? You don't know, but they were closing their restaurant. And it was quite a sad article, but it also gave me a lot of motivation to be like, fuck it, you know, like sure, like it's just another challenge. Like let's take it on, you know, like and there was so much inertia at the start when COVID happened for F&B operators, and I took maybe like 3 weeks to just put up like a list of beers online and say that we are doing delivery. But like after I read that letter, I was like, wow, I'm gonna do everything, whatever nonsense I can think of, I'm going to do. Yeah, and that really gave me like a push and to be able to see things in a much bigger, broader perspective. And I was like, okay, you know, like, and also for me to check back with myself and why I was doing Bunker in the first place. And I was like, it's okay, because end of the day I know Bunker will not die even if the space dies.
So is that detachment from the actual space? So the space isn't a bunker, but Bunker is actually detached from the space. The space is just, I guess, hosting Bunker at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, it was a very good wake-up call for me to be like, hey, check back with your 5-year plan. Because at that point, when COVID hit, nobody was thinking about like our goals and dreams and aspirations, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it goes into a survival mode in a sense, because I think right when it hit initially, there was like this air of uncertainty, because I think it's so new and it caught, I think one of the main struggling points against this particular virus is the uncertainty and the rate at which something so the rate at which it spreads, as well as the rate at which it affects people, because one could have no symptoms or anything at all, but the other could be suffering. I mean, these two combined together makes it valid, and it's so new.
Yeah.
at that point in time. And I think a lot of businesses, I think I remember like Momofuku by David Chang. I think they were struggling as well. And you think of someone of that stature, of that caliber of cokes and managerial decisions, they are struggling in New York as well. I mean, what of you guys? What of the people in the local scene? I mean, there was this like atmosphere really of uncertainty back then.
It was insane. Like to be like, oh, I don't know what to do, to be honest. Like really that like, will me driving around delivering beer to like 2-3 people a day save the business? I'm like, oh my god, like
that's a pretty cool idea actually.
Right? Like
yeah.
I'm like, wow. And also until now, since then, I think that we have been able to be like, it's okay, let's just try things and not care about whether that thing that we are going to try is going to make money, because we must try it first. Yeah. And like, I mean, we did like, we prototyped like a day of just cycling around. So I sent out text to like 10 friends and like, let's go cycle and like visit F&B spots. Okay. And that was good enough, right? Like, yeah. Just in that. And I mean, we went to like other different F&B spots and like, and found a very nice activity traveling in between, the routes and like, we got to see some like insane, like we detoured to like some street where there were like insane like bungalows, and just go and see like some crazy houses and like, and then go back to like visiting F&Bs, eat ice cream, drink beer.
Yep.
And it was like an amazing day. It's like super fun, right? And coming back to the money aspect, like maybe they didn't spend all at Bunker, but you know, I understand now that a simple engagement like that, we easily spend as a whole like $1,000 $2,000, right? But and that could be something that makes or breaks like certain entities.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, you know, like that opens up a lot more things that we can do, like, or try.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in the earlier conversation, we talked about different subcultures like music or even dance. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the F&B culture in Singapore. Is it something that interests you? Is it something that is growing? Is it something that is so diverse that whatever taste you might have for the particular day, you can fulfill? Because I mean, Singapore is usually known for a lot of things, and one of them is the food. The food you can find at such a ridiculously affordable price as well.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? You can $3 bak chor mee to like $3,000 fine dining.
Yep. What are your thoughts? I mean, from a consumer point of view, as well as for lack of a better word, like an F&B owner in a sense. Yeah.
Before Bunker, I was the average consumer lah. You know, I would eat at hawker center normal. Like bak chor mee, wanton mee, I can eat every day. I still can, I still do it, right? But ever since I entered the F&B industry, and to be honest, right, I was super surprised at how welcoming the industry was. Yeah. I know there are certain aspects of F&B that is horrible, like people are horrible, but I've not yet encountered something like that. And I think it's because we are all in the like indie growing SMEs, you know, like those bigger corporations and stuff. I think they will be a bit more cutthroat. But like everybody I've met so far in the F&B industry, or like almost everybody, are super nice, super willing to share. And it is a industry where you like the realities of life just smack you in the face.
What does that mean?
You know, like, you know, now I have friends like in different levels of the chain of F&B, right? So you have like restaurants, and then there are the service providers, right? The people that people consult for, and then there's like the POS system, and everybody sees a different part of the F&B industry. And the people that do the consultation or the service providers, they see the most, right? They see 200 F&Bs starting every month.
Wow.
and 50% of them dying in the first 6 months. Like
200 studying every month.
our turnover rate is fucking crazy. It's
Yeah.
insane, right?
Yep,
Like,
yep.
and like I can imagine like everybody at some point of time in their life they will be like, wow, it'd be nice to own a cafe. Wow, it'd be nice to own a bar.
That was the trend, I think 5 years back. Yeah,
Right,
a lot of
yeah,
people about
and-
it. Yeah.
And like, I mean, it's something that people actually do. A lot of people, they try their hand, you know, like, and that's why like you celebrate your first year, like you are like, oh my God, I made it.
Yep.
And then it's the next year and the 5 years milestone, and you know, like if you really can stay there and keep it going, like is really amazing.
It's a grind.
Let alone make profit. It's a different beast. Like
Yep.
yeah, the F&B industry, but also an industry that is filled with amazing experiences. Yeah.
So, in this scenario, after a day of work, what would you like to eat? What would you recommend?
Eat I'm like any other, right? We enjoy our shao kao. The
A what?
China barbecue shao kao.
What's that?
Is shao kao is barbecue lah, but it's the, if I'm not wrong, it's like the
Is it on sticks?
Sichuan, yeah, like mala.
Okay.
Mala is one of them.
Okay.
Not, but shao kao is more, I don't really know which part of China lah, but like it's like Chinese barbecue and they put like this topping on everything. It all tastes the same, but like different meat and stuff. Yeah. Or like I recently had senki,
What's that?
herb, black chicken herbal soup with miswa. And it's like,
That doesn't sound very appetizing.
why? It's like herbal soup, what? Like,
Okay.
yeah. Like, and it's like soupy and like filled with flavor. And
Very
like,
wholesome.
it's like after you drink, you go eat bak kut teh, you know? Yeah, it's exactly the same. But to me, bak kut teh is like top. Like, I don't understand people eat bak kut teh in the morning, but I completely understand the people that eat bak kut teh after drinking. You know?
But I think what is interesting, considering the events and whatever Bunker stands for, there seems to be an increasing network of food, F&B as well as like culture related activities together. I think what comes to mind is Park Bench. I think Park Bench, because they're friends of the studio and friends of the podcast as well, and they've always been championing the creative culture. Really, they work with a lot of local illustrators in the scene to do posters as well, and I think it's also indicative of the guy in charge, which is Andre. Like I think the way he thinks and then the way he really likes, and as a fan of, let's say, music and arts and design, I think it trickles down into the business as well. Yeah.
For sure. And you really need to be like a fan, right? As anybody, right? To really even push these kind of things. Yeah. And I believe that like Park Bench is definitely one of them. And even when I was in school last time, like I remember Artichoke, they got one of my peers that was also in school to do some designs for their stickers. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. You know, like local support local is like, it's something that is something that is very, very prevalent in our communities and societies. I feel like you definitely do see it. Yeah. And even businesses that have taken on that agenda to create their brand, like Tolaya Arts Club, right?
Yep.
F&B, but pushing the arts.
Yep.
Right.
I think it's interesting to consider that it's right now, and I guess moving forward, it's a lot more closely related. Like it's not as social, it's not as distant as, let's say, the painters and illustrators would be on one end while the F&B outlets would be on the other end. But right now it's a lot more like, it's a lot easier for, let's say, a younger illustrator to be approached by one of these F&B industries to throw, let's say, an exhibition or like a really small pop-up just to get a little bit of a standing, because I think everybody benefits like that.
Yeah. I think it's much more celebrated, the whole aspect of it, you know, like the whole coming together of, and like maybe the lines are not drawn so strictly that like I need you to have like a certain following before I want to be like doing something together.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's very supportive culture, and that's amazing.
So I think one last thing about the business is I'm curious to know, is there an aspect of running a business? So we've both had our pee break. So Keola, as we left off, what is an aspect of business that isn't talked about as much?
I think there is two main things that is really is like a oversight when you plan on doing business. One is how the administrative portion is held. And I think like people that are experienced in business, they are very, very much more prepared for this portion, understanding licenses, understanding grants, understanding what you have to do, just the administrative process. And I think new business owners will really be like buffeted by this immense amount of paperwork that they have to constantly read up on, and suddenly there's a whole new part of your job that is not a one-off. It takes maintenance.
Is it because there are a lot of like holes to jump through as a business to even apply for something, or what is it about it that is so perhaps detrimental?
So I briefly went into like consulting for new F&B startups as well, and like a lot of people they have the dream, right? And like, I want to do F&B business, and they are probably going to be good at it. It's just that, you actually really have no idea how to start F&B, and you might. What's the first thing you will do, right? Find a space, right?
Naturally.
Say you find a space, and in your ideal situation, you get the space. Then you realize, I have to apply for change of use because it used to be an office. Now I want to turn it. And the government don't allow.
That's it.
What are you going to do? You already sign it.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
And these are like super, super amateur mistakes. But it's just one of the many things that can go wrong if you don't have the right paperwork.
Yep.
And like even now in COVID, I think if I'm not wrong, if you sign a lease and you don't do your stamp duty, you don't get your grant, you don't get your rental support by the government, because the government has no track of your rental.
Okay.
Situation,
but just
right?
a little thing of the stamp duty.
Yeah, and when I first signed for Bunker as well, my friend was like, "Did you do your stamp duty?" I was like, what the fuck is that? What I mean, I got my company stamp. Like, what do you want me to stamp? He's like, nah, man, you need to do your stamp duty. And because he was freelance property agent, he's like, don't worry, I'll have you sort it out. Yeah, and I mean, small gesture, huge favor, right? I had no idea. Yeah,
it's not something that is talked about even. Yeah,
and there's no like
resource site
template. Yeah, and like how to open a business step-by-step guide, right? You want to have that, you have to pay someone as a consultant.
Yep.
Right, and
not everybody has the luxury to even pay someone to tell them to do this in the beginning.
Which small business owner has the money to go and pay a consultant, right? And that is just to me, I was like, I really, really hate doing accounts, the admin side, because it takes away mind space and energy from focusing on what I really, really want to do. But through the years, I've learned that it is something that has no choice. You need to do it, so you need to be objective and set the time and to do it. And I mean, having a circle of F&B friends always helps, right? You can always ask and stuff like that. The other thing that is very real about, I don't think it's just F&B, but any business is leadership.
Interesting.
Right? You never go to school to learn leadership. You never expect to have to practice leadership when you have to hire someone. Suddenly you are an employer or manager, and you need to know how to manage people, and it is not something that's natural for everyone. Yeah. And being able to let alone being able to have good colleague relationships is really tough, you know, like I feel, let alone be able to lead. And I think for me it's a little bit strange as well because I'm quite young and there's the potential of hiring people much older than me. Yeah, and that is, I mean, I haven't because I don't think I can. Yeah, but
it is a potential. Yeah.
Yeah, but it might happen. And yeah, I think managing people is something that is going to appear as a challenge, I think, for most people.
So
yeah,
having been thrust into the position of pseudo leadership of Bunker, or like the team and the vision, what have you learned about yourself?
I realized that I cannot be a boss. Like,
could you explain what
in the
being a boss
traditional
means?
sense of the boss is there to run the business, to make sure that the business stays afloat, and to do everything that is good for the business in that sense, right?
Okay.
And I actually I knew that from the start. Like, I know I will not be a good boss because I am very easygoing, and I think maybe I have to find my own ways of running the business in that sense, and understanding how, and finding my way of leading the team, right? And I'm super easygoing, and I think that I have to learn how to play to that trait and use that characteristic of mine to find the way to lead lah. Yeah, and for me it's just I've learned a lot from just interacting with a lot of different people and as staff, I mean, right? Like, and different part-timers, and seeing how everybody works and what motivates everybody, and it's always very different.
Yep.
But the one thing that is for sure you need to do is FaceTime. You need not FaceTime as in
okay.
Right? You need to have face-to-face time with your staff to really understand and to communicate lah. Essentially it's communication, right? But it's different when it's through text, it's different when it's through call, right? You need to be there. Yeah. And that's one thing that I've not been the best at as well. But it's something that I've really realized. And I think that that's something that I really try to do more of.
But it's also important to know that it is ultimately still a learning journey for you. As the business grows, as the team grows, as you mentioned before, as you need to hire, let's say, someone who perhaps is older than you will have to adapt, really.
I mean, they're all lessons, right? Like, slowly. And I guess the good thing is that I see Bunker going in a certain direction that I'm okay with, and probably the F&B is not something that we are going to. I mean, we definitely dwell in the F&B industry, right? Because we kind of are already. Just that maybe the traditional way of operations will not apply to us moving forward. So it's quite fun for me also to try to see, like, how can we create our own kind of like way, a system. Yeah.
I think one last question before we move on. What qualities or what points in a leader do you think is the most important?
Being able to listen, right? And listening with intent and asking why these things are being said, right? Because a lot of people, they ask for your opinion, or they ask or they communicate in a way where they are like, hey, why don't we do this? Hey, why don't we do that? Or like, I think we should be like that, or like, we should change this, right? And to knee-jerk and react, right, will be detrimental because you are not understanding the reason why they are giving these suggestions. Yeah, and this is something I've learned from design practice, right? To really take a step back and to ask why certain things are being said, certain things are being done, and then there's always a deeper meaning or reason why this, and that is the actual issue that you must find a solution to, before just changing.
It's also about, would you say it's empathy, or does it go beyond empathy? Because I think listening with intent is a very interesting set of words that conveys you're not just listening for the sake of listening, or even listening for the sake of inputting your own opinion, but you're listening intently as to why the other individual is saying the things they're saying, and going even further to figure out the intent of whatever they're saying.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's based off empathy, which is something that's very important in design and leadership, I feel.
All right, I think the last topic I really want to talk to you about is craft beers.
Craft beer.
You have brought a fine selection of craft beers to the podcast recording today. I think there's one of chocolate, and there's one, I think you mentioned it's sour. So I think the idea of craft beers has always seemed very Western to me, but I think in recent years there seems to be, I wouldn't even call it a resurgence, but an exponential growth of people bringing in craft beers or even brewing their own craft beers in Singapore. I think, especially in recent years, there's a lot more homegrown craft beers. I'm curious to know, what is your relation to, I think, craft beers, and why do you like them as opposed to, let's say, regular run-of-the-mill like Tiger or Heineken? What is the difference there? Yeah, and why do you like craft beers? Yeah,
the beer you're drinking is locally brewed.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah.
And I'm very proud of the local scene and how it has seen such a steady rise. Although we are, as a whole, in terms of beer and volumes being sold as beer in Singapore, we are still 5, 6, I don't know, maybe max 10%, right? And we're still very small as an industry, but it's very vibrant. And I fell in love with craft beer by chance, right? And just drinking something that I didn't even know was beer. And I was like,
interesting.
Fuck, this tastes amazing, right? And then when I found it was beer, I was like, oh, what else? Right? What else can I find? And I went through this whole journey of exploration and it's such a fun and versatile drink. Just beer is too simple to just say. If you brew it as a beer, it's a beer. But under that umbrella, there are 180. Now with new styles, there are maybe 200 plus styles of beer, right? And in that 200 plus styles of beer, you can find every single spectrum of flavor, which no other vehicle of an alcohol drink can provide.
Vehicle of alcohol drink. What, that is a term. Wow.
Right, because it is on par with finding flavors in cocktails when cocktails are mixed drinks, and you can find it in a beer that is just once off process of brewing. Yeah, and I think beer is so fun that way, and we are so spoiled for choice in Singapore now that if you want to drink one beer every day, it won't be a problem.
Oh wow.
To drink a different beer every single day. At the rate that beers are being brought into Singapore and the number of suppliers and the number of different beers that they are bringing in.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is insane. Yeah.
But it speaks to the very interesting demand for it, even the diversity of it. Because let's say for Bunker, you guys are the one bringing in and I guess selling it to people, right? But for a consumer's point of view, you're just exposing the new wave of consumers to beers that they might not even know of. If you guys or other people don't bring it in,
right? Yeah,
and people will be growing up consequentially with the new wave of craft beers that you guys bring in, or even the local ones.
Yeah. So I think in a few more years, maybe 5-10 years, I expect craft beer to be a normal sight. Yeah, and then we will be able to bring up the topic of why it's called craft beer, right? And in comparison to the big boys, the commercial beers, right? For me, essentially the main difference, right, is that craft beer and commercial beer is all beer, right?
Yes.
But the reason why we have to call it craft beer when actually it is the proper way of brewing beer is because we need to draw a comparison, right? Craft beer is defined as beer brewed by hand in small batches, right? And there is inconsistencies. And commercial beer would be just a product brewed in insane volumes.
Yep.
Right? And the reason why it doesn't taste like much is because of how they wanted to produce mass volumes but to keep a consistent flavor.
So something will be sacrificed.
Something has been sacrificed, right? And it has gone through many iterations of consistency until that it tastes nothing much now. So it can consistently taste like nothing much. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. So and my only gripe with mass produced beer is that it's not good for you, right? If you are going to drink and get drunk, or if you are just going to drink anyways, put something good in your body.
What do you mean by it's not good for you?
Mass produced stuff has preservatives. That's what gives you your hangovers. That's what gives you that insane headache.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah, I don't get hangovers because I don't drink that stuff, right? Even though I do get drunk sometimes. Yeah. And then essentially you are drinking a pseudo beer, I guess, because beer is termed as malts, water, hops, and yeast.
Yep.
And to save costs, commercial brews will put in adjuncts. So they use less malts, which are expensive, and then they add in cheaper sugar alternatives like corn and whatever you may have, and it's just a mishmash of
so it's like a hybrid. It's not like a pure.
It's
like
really to drive high volume, high profits kind of thing.
Yep.
And nothing bad about it. It's still a business, right? Like,
yep.
But yeah, I mean, and if you look at alcohol tax in Singapore, right, the alcohol tax for a can of beer can easily be $2-3, right? And then if your beer that you buy from 7-Eleven is $3-4, right? Can you imagine how much you're actually paying for the beer?
You're paying for the tax.
You're paying for the tax, and if you are going to pay for the tax anyways, right? Put in that extra like $3-4. And like drink something that's tasty, drink something that's, I guess, in a way, like better for you. Yeah.
Is it a known fact that craft beers are generally better than commercial beers? Oh, sorry, so the terminology is commercial. Yeah, is it generally a known fact?
I don't think so, and I don't think it really matters to the general consumer. Yeah, until you, but you know, if people are aware of what they eat and what they drink generally, like now people want to know what goes into their food.
Yep.
Right, like, and like
there are better choices.
Yeah,
like if there's
and
like
be
impossible.
able to, seek better choices. I think the information is there. The barrier to entry is still education, which is tedious, but slowly lah. I think there is. I mean, the industry shows it lah, that craft beer is definitely like on the rise.
But it seems like a very daunting, even like a choice as a consumer to me, because I remember, not locally, but back in New York, when you go to the grocer, you look at the beer selection, and it's fucking overwhelming because there's
crazy,
so many. And let's say you only have money for one, where does one start? Okay, so the question to you is, where will one start in this particular like journey? Yeah.
To be honest, right, I would say buy whatever is
looks good.
Whatever you're comfortable buying.
Okay.
In terms of price, right? Because after all, it's like alcoholic beverages are a luxury. You know, you know, it's money that you spend, right? So I would never try to persuade someone that thinks that like a $12 beer is ridiculous over $5 beer, because you know there's no point, right?
Yep.
But until you maybe get a chance to try something that is like how I did, right? Like I didn't even know it was beer, and I tried it, and I was like, whoa.
Yep.
Then after when I found out the price also, I was like, whoa. But I'm like, okay, you know, but like now I'm like prepared. Like maybe I'll drink 2 less of the commercial beer and drink 1 of that. But I think it's a journey, and one good way of getting into beers, or actually just exploring, right, is that understanding that Singapore has so much options of beautiful flavors you can put in your mouth.
What does that mean?
Whether it's food or drinks, whether it's beer or cocktails or natural wines, or you know, there's always an option of, you know,
something to suit your taste.
Like if you're gonna spend some money, you're gonna drop some cash, like you can make it a beautiful experience. Like no problem in Singapore. Yeah.
Is there like an agreed upon standard beginner type of craft beer that someone should start with?
There are definitely easy styles. I mean, the style that attracts most people are IPAs, right? Like everybody knows what an IPA is now, right? But it's actually it's just another style of beer. It's usually quite fruity and a little bit more aromatic bitter. That's why it presents a super big contrast to the commercial beers that you have drank before. And then you're like, whoa, what is this? This beer? Right? And then like you're like, okay, you know, like I'm going to like try. Yeah. And to be honest, there are more accessible, more affordable options as craft beer, right? Or I mean, just as a small step up, just you don't need to think of it as like, oh, atas beer or anything, you know. It's just another beer that is more expensive maybe, but is definitely more flavorful, or like just provides an option of a different flavor. Yeah, and then that's where you start, I guess. Then you will like start to try many.
But I think it's generally quite amazing to see the rise and even the pervasiveness and the consistency of like local brewers, like even them selling to other stores as well. And I think that is pretty cool. Yeah.
Local brewing is still very new to Singapore. But
have you tried it yourself?
Brewing?
Yeah.
I've home brewed.
Okay.
Right, as a
drinkable,
okay. But like
any awards?
No, far from it, man. Like, so you know, home brewing at the very basic level is easy. It's like baking a cake.
That's what our mutual friend Charlie mentioned before. Oh, it's only these 4 ingredients.
Yeah, and then you stir in a pot and you let it sit to ferment, right?
Yeah.
You spend maybe $70 and you yield 20 over liters. That's a lot of beer, man, right? But then if it sucks, right, you have to drink 20 liters of sake beer. True. Or I mean, you don't, you can pour it away, but like, you know, it's there. Like,
true.
Yeah, and so I've made a few batches of homebrew, and like it's fun to do, but like I prefer to drink good beers. Like what I know is already good, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I put like I chopped up like all these pandan leaves.
Okay.
And put it in a stout recipe.
Okay.
And when it was done fermenting, right, I opened the fermenter and the whole room smelled for some reason like goreng pisang, like ripe bananas.
Is that good or bad?
It's bad, man. Like,
it's bad. Okay.
Because there was no pandan taste at all. Any sense of any pandan was gone. You know, there was nothing.
So it smelled like goreng pisang. What did it taste like?
So it tasted like a watered down stout with ripe bananas. It was weird lah.
Okay,
that one I poured with.
Okay.
That one I poured with.
Okay.
Yeah,
but is there a lot of... Okay, it always seemed to me that there is a lot of creativity and even artistry in the craft of homebrewing. I think the reason why I say that, I mean, right before us or me, you brought like a chocolate beer. And I remember a project that we as a studio we did with Charlie. He linked us up with a couple of brewers that he know. so that we custom like 3 different flavors. So he was asking us, oh, what do you want? If we want something sweet, you can do the meat, then you can put the honey, then you can put this. Then it's like, instead of like going to a shop and just choosing whatever you want, then you can come into a beer? Is it like that? It seems like the possibilities are like so vast, but a lot of people just think, oh, beer Tiger, beer Heineken, but like this aspect of it is quite untapped. It feels, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where, I mean, the whole understanding of what beer really is, like what we have been exposed to the last 50 years of Singapore is just the commercial stuff and maybe a bit of the Belgian and the German stuff and that is just like the tip of the iceberg in beer, right? And brewing is such a long tradition act, like our practice, that you can brew a beer with the age-old recipe and it's fucking solid, and then you can go crazy and experimental and also get something solid. But like, it's just something, because it's alive, it's yeast, you're dealing with like yeast, and it's not like making 2 flavors put together. It's something that is alive, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's like fermentation, right? It is fermentation, and there's so many variables in that aspect. And like, I mean, you can say beer is simple, 4 ingredients, but what malts to use, what hops to use, each of them have hundreds of strains of different variables and flavor profile. So I think it's to be a good brewer is really it's a craft. That's why craft beer, right? But yeah, some brewers are really like artists. I think they can really smell and see what is going on, and just like by instinct, just
even
like
adapt on the fly.
Yeah, like like change something last minute, and just like, I think some of them are really, really, really good at it. Yeah.
Has there been any local craft beers that has piqued your interest?
I would say our local craft beer brewing scene, especially in the last 2-3 years, have been pretty amazing, right? I think people are much more like they know what kind of level they want to be at before going commercial, right? And I mean, last time there are other breweries that will come up and just like, hey, we are local, we are brewing beer. And there's no longer that entitlement. There is the expectation of quality. Yeah, and I think like this one that you're drinking from Nyang Brewing and Live Brewing, these 2 breweries that we have collaborated with and created are like a bunker brew. Yeah, and they really do like really good stuff. And for me, I still think like Brewlander, one of the OG Singapore breweries, craft beer breweries, they are the one really pushing the level of what a local brewery can be, and constantly pushing good products. Yeah.
What, as a final question to this?
And Lion City Meadery.
What's that?
Yeah, so bringing in like it's a local company. They although they brew out of Singapore, but it's because that's where the base ingredients are. So mead is just honey, water, and yeast. Yeah, and it's a beautiful drink as well. Yeah, and something that is pretty new to the whole F&B scene as well in Singapore. Yeah.
Did it surprise you that the local scene is so exponential in their growth? Did it surprise you?
Not really, because I have to say I was quite fortunate to start drinking beer to try to start exploring craft beer quite early on. And at that point of time, when we started drinking, the scene was so small. Everybody was friends. And especially when I met Charlie. So Charlie and I, we grew up dancing, and then suddenly I see him drinking beer. Then he would invite me to all the other parties and stuff like that. And then I was like, how come got so many people drinking beer, home brewing, or then where are the bars and where are the local breweries? At that point of time when when you say like, hey, start your own brewery lah, people are like, whoa, like.
Yep.
I mean, it is a big undertaking.
It
right?
is, yeah.
But
Because
then,
you have the equipment, you need to store it. If it's a bad batch, then you were saying you have to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, lor, and but then now I think like people are like, I believe that the market is there. We are ready, like take the leap of faith, make some beers. Yeah.
Because it's also interesting to consider, perhaps in the future, it could also be an export item, as how Tiger Beer is exported to other countries. Like local craft beers can be exported to, let's say, like Taiwan, Japan, Korea, and stuff like that.
So Brewlander is already exporting Taiwan. Yeah, and there's also the how to say, like the ecosystem of breweries that are already established, right? And then like Niang, they are gypsy brewer.
What's that?
Where they contract to existing a facility to use their stuff to brew, their equipment to brew, because like they don't have their own brewery, they can attach themselves. Yeah, and
So it's
I
a bit
think
more
last time
nimble,
yeah.
like
So there are these options now. Yeah,
so the future is exciting.
super. Yeah, I think because like I said, beer is such a versatile beverage, and it really, to be honest, I think there's like really too many styles, but
to you, but to me, it all looks the same. But I'm more attracted to the art.
That's one huge thing as well. Like So I also realized that like that if we collaborate with a brewery, then we immediately have this label as a way of presenting local art as well. Yeah, and that's amazing lah. Yeah.
I think to cap off this point, personally, what do you look out for in a good beer? Like, what does a good beer look like to you?
Look like or what is a good beer lah, essentially.
Yeah.
I think because flavor is so subjective, the best beer is whichever you are. The best beer is the best beer you've had, because
what's this cop-out answer?
No, because until you try the next mind-blowing thing, you don't know, man, right? So the last best beer you had is the best beer.
Okay.
Yeah, and to be able to like open your mind to accepting any kind of flavor, right? Is the first step lah. Yeah. To go from like maybe a salty, sour, low ABV, refreshing, crispy, fruity beer.
That's a lot of descriptions.
Right? All the way to like a 15% bourbon barrel aged imperial pastry stout with habanero.
That's a lot of descriptions for one beer.
Right. So it's there are endless options as long as the brewer can come up with it. And
still encapsulate all the different things and make it taste good.
Yeah. Right. It's a process that has been slowly getting crazier and crazier, right? So last time it's Imperial Stout.
Yep.
High ABV. Then they barrel aged the Imperial Stout. Then the Imperial Stout, they put in some maple syrup. And then after they put in some chocolate. And then they put in chilies. Then like they just like keep trying to, push the boundaries. Yeah.
So what does the bunker beer taste like?
The first one we did was a sessionable. So sessionable means a lower ABV that you can session with, like drink many, right? So we did about like 4%. 4%. We did easy drinking like IPA. So we did dry hop. So dry hopping is the part of the brewing process where after the boil, the beer is fermenting, you add in the hops.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's wet hopping as well during the boil. You put in the hops. Yeah. So that both of them yield like different flavor profiles lah. Yeah. So we did a super dry hop, which gives you a lot of aromatic forward kind of fragrances. That was super easy drinking. And then we did it in collaboration with Gravy Baby, which is Gravy Baby is she's one of the first few pop-ups that we did together as well for food. Yeah, she does Peranakan, modern Peranakan fusion. And then because she's a designer and art director, she designed the label.
That's tight.
Yeah, and then we made the label as a sticker pack.
No, that's tight.
Yeah, so everybody you get your beer, you get stickers.
That's a good night,
like
man.
good party, yeah. And then the second one we did with Nyang. We also did a sticker pack, and then but this time we did like a 8%, I think, or 7%, like a stronger one. Yeah.
From what I could gather from the past 20 minutes, it's like it is highly customizable to the finest degree. Because you're just throwing out, oh, we want 8% and we want it this way, that way. Interesting.
Yeah. So in its very technical aspect of brewing, everything can be calculated. But then there is the magical part of fermentation where you also not so sure. Like you can make it super technical, but then to let the magic happen, you must allow that.
So it's a bit of like loss of control there.
Yeah, you just let go of the reins a little bit and see what happens. And that's where brewers can really experiment, I think. Yeah.
All right, the final question I have is, what does success look like to you in 2021 right now?
Whoa. I think one very, very important thing to keep track of in these times especially, right? Or in any business is to identify and celebrate small wins, right? Like maybe, for example, right, like say we just did Kampong, but this is what, September?
October.
Okay, let's say September, okay? So say for example September, the whole month, jialat, right? And then, but we still have Kampong as an event. And Kampong did pretty well, right? We still have to celebrate and acknowledge that small win. Because that is the energy that will snowball to better and good energy and to really push morale and all of that. And I think with that as an example, then success right now to me is maybe having to set, at least for Bunker, right? We keep the train moving, and then we set short-term goals, and then just try to like little by little like inch our way, because I feel like we cannot like give ourselves unrealistic expectations, especially in times of uncertainty. There isn't any point of like in the next 6 months I want to do what, because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, but maybe more of like checking back as well, like, is everybody in the team okay? Like, how is everybody going to push a certain
idea or
project, like, and just making sure that everything is still kind of like on track. Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, success to me isn't really defined by just the money part, which is very important. A lot of people are like, either it's money or it's not money, it's like happiness or something, right? But like, I think you need to find a balance there. Yeah, and if the money part cannot be like the main thing that, right, then there is always the other aspects of like company health and mental health and morale and just personally being okay with life and things like that. Yeah,
I think the first step is really to realize that it's not a binary decision between money yes or money no. It's to realize that it's a balance and that money helps a lot, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah. I think I'm quite thankful that we are in Singapore, especially during the COVID situation, because I think many businesses overseas will suffer a lot more. Yeah.
Especially like the nightlife, the F&B, the bars. Yeah,
and it's like our government is giving us grants and monies and support, like, and that's like, wow, like, at least we have that, Yeah. So I think, for me, success now is maybe
celebrating the small victories.
Yeah, man, and all the. I mean, all the collaborations lah, right? Yeah, I think what we can do is like look like extra far ahead maybe, and like keep the social network going. Yeah.
All right. Before we end, is there anything you would like to talk about?
We talk about so many things today. I just want to say, like, I think we can still find silver linings, I guess, right? And this is tough times, but you know, like, we are built to be quite resilient, I think, and I hope that people come together with the right people around them, and I think we can still do amazing things. Yeah.
That's a perfect way to end off. Thank you, Keola. Thank you for your time, the conversation, and the beers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode and feel inspired. If you enjoyed what you heard thus far, do give us a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode.